Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast.
I'm ready. Sorry.
I'm going to leave that one in there.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brandon Shank podcast.
Yes,
I'm here.
That one.
I'm here live on this beautiful day in December with my main man, Coey, in the corner.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, it's Christmas time.
It is.
You feel that?
We made it.
It's the beautiful time of the season.
What I feel is it's brutally cold outside.
Yeah, man. What's up with that, dog?
Like, way too. It's not supposed to be in the 30s in Virginia Beach.
Well, I'm headed to the mountains over Christmas with my RV and my kids, and I didn't winterize my RV, so I'm just hoping the thing works when I get there.
Right.
You know, all this freezing temperatures we've had. My truck couldn't start yesterday. I think it's because one of my kids left the light on. I hadn't driven it for a couple of days since Thanksgiving. I think maybe the light was left on.
The kids are always
Christmas
pushing those lights on. Ooh.
For all those viewers. Yeah. You know, it's old. It's classic.
Have you started any Christmas movies yet?
Oh, all the time. So, you know, it gets dark at like 2:30 in the afternoon. So when the boys get home from school, you know, we got all the lights on, you got music going. Usually have a little snacky snack. And then when my older boys get home, they get home around 4:45, 5 o'clock. We usually already have a movie going. I think last night Home Alone was the first feature. And, and then we ate dinner with some Christmas music on in the background. And then after that, my family's big Uno fans. Like, we play a lot of card games. So,
nice.
And I think a part of that is our camping heritage. So when you go camping, we have internet and stuff, but like a lot of times we don't use it. Like, we'll just play card games, play music, hang out, go outside, bake fires. Like, it's just what you do. And so it's funny because now, I mean, I got a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, an 11-year-old, or 12-year-old, and 14-year-old sitting around the table playing Uno. Like, they just love card games.
Oh, yeah.
So it's typical for us to, and I don't know, maybe that's normal for most people. I didn't think it was for me growing up as much, but so yeah, we'll usually after dinner they're throwing down on cards. We started, and the second movie was the Santa Claus. So we watched a double feature. Last night was Home Alone 2. Yeah. So we have it going.
You're full swing into it right now.
Yeah, you know, right now our evenings are special. So like tomorrow night, you know, Caden has he plays in the orchestra. He plays in the marching band, he plays in the jazz band, and he plays in the concert band, drums.
Yeah.
So tomorrow night he has an orchestra concert for Christmas. Ryland's got youth. Saturday they both have marching band. Caden's playing the quads, Ryland's playing the trumpet. They're marching with the holiday parade down at the oceanfront. You should come if y'all aren't doing nothing.
Nice.
Saturday night. So yeah, there's you know, it's just nonstop. So the nights we have where there's nothing going on, we just really turn that fire on and kick it, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we turned our fireplace on for the first time the other day. It was nice. It was really nice. My wife,
freezing.
Yeah, my wife is currently she's compiling the list of all the streaming platforms that have all of the Christmas movies, and she's making a list. So I know it's incoming for me. Yeah, but the other
there's
night,
a list. Do you know there's a list online?
Yeah, I know there is. That's what I'm saying. She's just compiling the ones that she really likes and making a list of everything that we need to watch.
There's a list online that came out a week before Thanksgiving that had every Christmas movie, what network or what app they're on, whether or not they're free. And most of them you can get for free, but they're on just all the different, you know.
Yeah, wow. She literally just asked me. She was like, last night, is Tubi? Is that like a free app? And I was like, yeah, it's free. The content on it is free. If you didn't know that, Tubi is actually the world's largest like streaming platform because it's free.
Yeah, I think they just have commercials, right?
Yeah, there's just commercials, but everything on there is free. And that's when I found out that she's making a list. So I was like, yep, it's free. She's like, okay, good. There's a Christmas movie on there that I wanted to watch. I was like, all right. Wow. I can't remember what one it was. But
so what does she do? Like schedule it out over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think she just likes you know, my wife is a checklist person. So I think like anything, when we're like, hey, let's watch a Christmas movie tonight, she likes to have the list. And she's like, well, let's just pick from the list rather than doom scrolling and trying to find something. But yeah, there's the classics for sure. Home Alone's going to get watched. You know, there's the classic list for sure. But I'm gearing up for it. Christmas. I like Christmas movies, but I like Christmas. But I don't know. You know me. I'm a sci-fi nerd, so.
Yeah, you like Santa goes to space.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what a weekend it was in college football for those who weren't watching. A lot of rivalries. Rivalry weekend is great, but a lot of fights. Michigan upset Ohio State and then proceeded to plant their flag at Ohio State's 50-yard line, which a fight broke out. Pepper spray by the police was used. My favorite coach in college football right now, Billy Napier at University of Florida. They beat Florida State, but then they planted their flag on the logo, and he said that's not how we do business. It was classless. There's two sides to this. One side says that's classless, don't do it. The other side says you had 60 minutes to shut us up. You didn't. We're planting our flag on your logo. So, I mean, it's competitive. You're fiery at the end of the game. I'm sure if I played in those games, whether or not I was planting the flag or didn't want them to plant the flag, I'd been in the middle of the fist fights. So, I mean, by the time it's over, I'd have been right there with my homeboys throwing down just because we're a team, and whether or not we got beat or we're the ones beaten, I would love to say, man, you just got to walk away. I'd have probably been like, bro, get that flag out of here. I'd have been like, hey, this flag's on you. Who knows, man. They're college guys. They're football players. It was an incredible weekend of football. There was a lot more flag planting that went on. Apparently, it's a thing now. I think Baker Mayfield started a trend whenever he did it when he was in Oklahoma at Texas. But anyway, so
wow.
But there is a way for all of us to come together. There is a way, and I have a solution.
All right.
And it works. It's not a solution that I am inventing. It is one that I'm telling you will change the game for all of humanity. You want to hear this?
I'm ready.
The thing that will unite all fans. For instance, I was shown a video last week when Dallas played in Washington, and they had rubbed the genie bottle enough times to get the win. There was a fist fight. And somebody showed me this fist fight, and it was between it was Commanders and Cowboys, but it was kind of just like a melee. And they said, isn't this your section? And I looked at it, and I said, it sure is my section. Those are where my seats are at. But it was far back. It was like on the 20 or 21st row. This weekend, I took my wife and my two youngest, Makai and Asher, and we went to the game, and we got to see Washington play Tennessee. It was a beautiful game, amazing. We had the blacked out uniforms, just incredible environment. It's the most incredible environment. I'm telling you, it is the way Washington should feel. It has not felt like that since it was at RFK and I was a kid. Casey hadn't been back since this year, and she was like, dude, this environment's amazing. I said, I told you, it is like ruckus in here. Like, it is intense, and it's fun. But all that to say, in the middle of any game, it has to be well-timed. But when a section in the stadium starts the wave, and then that wave proceeds to go the whole way around the stadium, blue jerseys and maroon alike, and everybody's doing the wave together from the section 100 to 400s, and it comes all the way back around and makes a circle. There is a unity and a beautiful celebration that takes place as one crowd of 60-some thousand celebrating as one human. That is the most beautiful thing in all of sports. The one game I was at, they went around 3 times because it was during a TV timeout. It went around the stadium 3 times, and it just got more powerful every time. And everybody was cheering. It's just like when you have that many people do the wave, it is an incredible thing to witness. Yeah. And I love it. That's why I love sports. I'm like, dude, this is unity at its finest. Like, these fans don't care who you're cheering for right now. Right now, we're just doing a wave. Why? Because it's the wave. You know what I'm saying? The same reason you go swimming in the summer because it's hot. You eat popsicles in the summer because it's hot. You like to go drink hot cocoa in the winter because it's cold. So what do you do at the stadium? You do the wave. Why? Because it's fun. It was beautiful, man.
Here's the real question. When you do the wave, do you stand up or do you stay seated?
I'm usually in my section. We're already standing.
So you're just already on your
standing. Yeah. So the reality is where we sit, you can sit. We're on the end. We're on the end of a row. So you can sit down if you prefer. But the majority of the game, I would say people in my section are standing because we're right on the field. And so it's where all the crazies hang out. It's loud. I don't know. It's a party section. So I wanted to sit there. They tried to get us in the club seats. I was like, man, I want the rowdy section. I want the crazy fans. Yeah. But, we're right up on the field. The hog farmers aren't too far from us. I think they're on our side. The hog farmers are the group of guys. They donate money to hog farmers, but they're called the hog farmers. They dress a certain way. They have like overalls, and they all have like, the pig ears and stuff like that. And anyway, so it's just a cool section to be in. We're around that area, I think. I think they're in our area. So I forget if they're in our end zone or the one on the other side, but I think they're in our end zone. But anyway,
gotcha.
It's fun. But I do want to say one thing before I go to your fun fact, just as an opener here on the podcast. One thing I've realized, we went from a 14-team playoff to 12-team playoff in college football, and I have realized something that's already going to take place. So Alabama fans were crying because they were 8-3 and got kicked out of the playoff. Well, this week they beat a Auburn team that was okay, but not any better than most teams that are average. And they got moved to number 11. So now they're back in the playoff. Now there's a chance they could still get bumped out. But I realized something this week. Regardless if it's 4 teams or 12 teams or 28, politics, and as long as people are the ones deciding who gets in these playoffs and not the games, it's never going to be solved. The one thing I love is that every championship team from each conference gets automatic bids. I love that because before that wasn't the case. You had teams winning conference championships that were booted out for, Alabama, Georgia playing the SEC championship, then they would end up getting in the playoff. Like it was Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and Ohio State every year is what it felt like. And now you have 12 teams, but then you have teams that are 2 losses getting booted out for other teams, or it's just already so political because you're saying, well, the eye test, and they lost late in the year, and I'm thinking, well, who cares when they lost? Like, tell me what that matters. If they lost in December or if they lost in September, a loss is a loss. Well, they developed throughout the year and they looked better. Says who? Because your eye test, and it's like, come on, man. So I've realized that we're not going to be any better off. There's always going to be a 12th, 13th, 14th team that's left out, the 13th and 14th team that we're going to be complaining about. And the ACC is going to they always get screwed. The SEC always gets all the bids because it's just the way it is. Like last year, Florida State, the way they ended up winning the ACC championship and the way their year went, they didn't let them in because their quarterback was hurt. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, and these guys who know college football and they're like talking about them and how great they are, and like, they didn't deserve to get it. Alabama should have got in. The reality is, was they the better team? By the eye test, I would say yes. On the field, their record, I mean, you'd say, well, Florida State's strength of schedule wasn't as good. Alabama, and it is a little bit of a soapbox for me, but I just think it's so political. It's like, dude, this is Little League baseball. Like, did Florida State won the ACC championship? Did Alabama win the SEC championship? Did they or did they not win it? You know what I'm saying? And they still got in. So it's just like Alabama gets so much help. They're the Dallas Cowboys of college football, I swear. They're just like, So it's one of those things for me where I'm like, they have some of the best talent. Are they the best team? No, they're not on the best, in my opinion. And I'm not mad at Alabama at all. I'm just saying it's funny how when Nick Saban was there, Nick Saban's the greatest coach of all time, in my opinion. So I'm not saying anything against him at all. But when he was there, they definitely got looks that other teams didn't. Period. Do they deserve to be there? That's neither here nor there. But anyway, that's my soapbox for the day.
But before we move on from sports, though, because I actually read this yesterday, and sorry, I'm jumping to a different sport here, but I want to get your thoughts on it and your opinions on it. I actually think it would be amazing. So what I read is that the MLB right now, I guess this is up for discussion, but have you heard about the golden batter rule that I should have done a deeper dive into this, but basically I just read an article that was saying that there's a potential that the MLB is discussing this golden batter rule that would essentially say before each game, you designate one hitter that would be your golden batter. And at any point in the game, you get one moment to throw them into a batter spot that they wouldn't technically be in. You can be like, hey, we're calling for our golden batter, and they get to go up to bat.
That's what I'm saying. That sounds like banana ball.
That's what I'm saying. And so there's a level of me that like, look, I'm here for it. Look it up. Fact check me. I didn't spend a whole lot of time in it. I read it, and I was like, that actually sounds really interesting. Maybe I got duped. I don't know. But listen, I'm here for it.
Well, it said it was a rule that was implemented ahead of the Bananas 2024 World Tour.
Gotcha. So it actually is a banana ball rule.
It is a banana ball rule. I mean, this is the thing.
Man.
So banana ball is a huge thing. It's great. Yeah. I went, you went. It was great. But the reality is I left. So I will tell you where I'm at. When I left that banana ball game, I told my wife, I was like, man, that was fun. It was hilarious. I enjoyed it. I was entertained. But I'm not going to lie. About 5 innings into it, I kind of wanted real baseball.
Sure, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
and I don't mean that in a bad way, but about 5 innings into it, I was like, there was something in me that's like, man, I just want to see like a really good game right now. I want to, like, I'm so used to going to that particular stadium and watching great baseball. Now, these are great athletes, great baseball players. They're throwing hard, so there's nothing against them. I'm not saying they're not great baseball players. These guys were big time and are big time. They're pro athletes. But there was a part of me that was like ready for like a really good, intense baseball game. And I think when you start implementing rules like that, the baseball doesn't need that. Like baseball doesn't need that, because what that does, that changes free agency. It changes the way you roster teams. So no, I'll tell you why I'm against it, because baseball doesn't need gimmicks to make it big. Baseball this year, I believe it was this year, had the highest in-stadium attendance and watching. Or this year and last year, the numbers have gone astronomically through the roof because of the pitch clock, because the games are faster. Like, you don't have to wait for these guys to step out of the box every pitch during the playoffs and adjust both their gloves and spit and make their cross in the dirt. Like, it made it speed up the game. And because of that, the average time of the games went down by like more than a half an hour. I don't think baseball needs something like that. I think something like that hurts the game, only because I think there's an integrity of the game, which you have a guy you can just implement anytime. It's not that it's awful and it would be awful. I think it's a fun thing. And it could be fun, for sure. I think you can always add rules, but I just think it would change. Stats in history is going to change when you do stuff like that, because there are guys who are home run hitters that aren't going to get it. Everybody's going to get one less. There might be guys who get one less at bat, and over the course of a season, they're getting 60 less at bats because this one guy is hitting for them. I don't know. I just think it changes the dynamic of the game a lot. I mean, you think about there's one less at bat that they like. You're not going to substitute that guy for one of your best hitters. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's one of those things where I don't know.
There's weird ways around it too, because it'd be like that hitter couldn't be on base at that moment. It's not like, unless you substitute the runner, which would be interesting, but it is a real thing. So
I just looked it up.
Here's the real quote from Manfred, the commissioner of MLB. He said, there's a lot of buzz around it, but I think there's both ways. There's a lot of people that actually, a lot of what I read are a lot of like baseball players that are fundamentally against it. But
I just like I like the integrity. I will say this, as a travel coach, I had 12 kids on my roster, and a lot of coaches will take a team to a tournament, and then Saturdays they'll bat 12, Sundays they bat 9. So Sundays are your pool play. Bracket play is Saturday. Or excuse me, pool play is Saturday, bracket play is Sunday. So your pool play, they'll bat 12. However you seed out. Sunday, they'll bat 9. Me, what I did was, Little League is so everybody needs to play. Everybody gets the same amount of playing time. Everybody gets opportunities. I'm not putting kids in danger. I'm not putting a kid in the infield that can't catch a ground ball, or it's going to get hit in the face of the line drive and not be able to react. But Little League is where kids get opportunities to do things that they don't. Travel ball used to be, and even like 2 or 3 years ago, it's changed from now. But for me, travel ball is for a better line of players. So for me, I'm rewarding the best 9. I'm not going to make my 9 kids wait for 12 kids to hit before my top of my order gets to come back around. So for me, I always batted 9. Even in double headers, it meant nothing. I never batted 12 ever. And you might think that's very, very. That is not the way travel ball coaches coach. A lot of them will bat their full lineup during doubleheaders, because doubleheaders don't matter. They're just scrimmages. So in doubleheaders, I'd still bat 9 for a couple of reasons. One, that's baseball. Like, I don't want my kids getting used to, like, this 12 batter thing. What it is turning it into Little League. Like, the only reason that we went to travel was because we wanted a different level of competition. So when you bat 9, you're just batting. You're batting your lineup. It's the way baseball works. And then I would substitute kids in. I'd play it like real baseball, because I wanted kids to get experience, and I want them at the top of my lineup to get, in the course of 2 games, I want them to get 2 or 3 more at bats, because for me, those kids deserve it. They are the best, and where else are they going to go and get that kind of privilege? Now, a lot of people who argue against that, my argument is that they either have a kid who's not as good, and it's their kid, and their kid's not getting it, but the kids who are good, they deserve to play more. I mean, and you're like, well, that's just not fair. It is fair, because in life, where do you get more by being less?
Yeah.
We always teach equality and all this stuff when it comes to jobs and opportunity, and that's fine. But it's not fair for somebody that doesn't have degrees to get paid the same as somebody who has advanced degrees. You're saying, well, it's the same job. I don't care if it's the same job. Those people with advanced degrees have shown a level of commitment and responsibility. They've paid financially for it. They have invested into something, and it needs to be returned because there are things about them that they have learned that will come into play with that job that will make it better. It's that simple. Education does do that. And it's the same with the baseball field. You have kids that are better, that are just better athletes. They do deserve more at bats. They deserve to have that's the real world. So when I develop players, if a kid wanted that, they had to earn it. They wanted that spot. They wanted that. They had to earn it. And so if you wanted to bat in the top 9, you had to earn it. I didn't just bat everybody. There was kids I didn't play until the second game. And some people say, well, man, that's horrible, this and that. Parents are paying for that. Well, go play for another team. Go play for another coach. I have no problem if you leave. I'm going to develop the kids on this team to be the best. And our teams weren't always the most talented teams, but we were always kamikazes. We went and won tournaments. We won state tournaments. We went and won small tournaments, or we're in the finals for small tournaments. We played against some of the best teams in the nation and hung with them because we developed our players. And so I just say that because I think that there's an overarching feeling in sports. Youth sports are the worst because if the parents would stay out of youth sports, it'd be better. But then there are some parents who are involved in youth sports that make it better. And so there's one or two type of parent. There's one who like Johnny needs more opportunity, and you're like, no, Johnny needs to develop so he can get more opportunity. And then there's another parent who's just like, they're great. They're the reason sports are great. They're the reason travel sports are great because those parents are really committed and they're locked in, So that's my first person point of view when it comes to that stuff. And I didn't coach travel this fall, and I haven't missed it. I love the kids and I love coaching, but I have not missed dealing with all of it, because I mean, you ain't making you're not making, that kind of, you're not making a living off of it, put it that way, to where you should have to deal with anything. You're a volunteer coaching kids. And, so I just think there's something to be said for, and I just coach the way I know these kids are going to be facing in life. Like, you ain't going to have mom and dad there at your job offer. You ain't going to have mom and dad there when you're in high school getting cut from your baseball team. In high school, what they'll do is they'll run you till you puke. They'll make you run stairs. They're just getting kids to quit until they start really filtering out the kids that are good. You know what I mean? That's what they do. And then when you coach that way in travel, parents get upset. And then Johnny gets to 9th grade and they're like, oh, like he wasn't actually too hard on our kids. He was actually preparing them for real life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just funny, man, because I can't tell you, even yesterday, this fall, I've had multiple offers to coach travel. Like some pretty big teams next year even. I'm supposed to be coaching a national team this summer. And when I hear stuff about like this golden bat rule, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't pertain to any of that. But I can tell you now, like there is a mentality in sports, youth sports, that parents think it should be banana ball. You know what I'm saying? They don't get it. They don't get it, man. Just because Johnny got the nicest things don't make no difference. Those are my soapbox rants. I can do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Let's say I poked the bear, y'all. Sorry.
No, it was just honestly, we don't talk a ton about it on the podcast. And I mean, that's kind of a part of our life. My life, I don't talk a ton about, not in a bad way, but it's just stuff I think a lot of. It's stuff I've thought a lot about in the last couple months. It's stuff that I've had time to marinate. And it's just like, it was just a full well. So when you touch it, just the balloon just kind of, but it's the truth, man. It's the truth. Like even yesterday, like I said, I had an offer to coach, like a pretty well-known team. And I'm not interested. I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
And, it ain't the first time somebody's asked me that. And I'm not putting myself out there. I'm just saying I'm not coaching because I don't have opportunity. I'm not coaching because I don't want to coach. It's that simple. Like I just think my kids do not need me to coach to be successful in baseball. And I mean, that's not the case with some parents. Some dads are coaching because if it's not for them, their kid's not going to be playing and hitting in the lineup where they're hitting. My kids don't need that. And I'm not trying to be a jerk saying that. I'm saying my kids, they're going to earn stuff. And so I won't let them play for a dad who coaches like that, but I'll let them play for a coach who gives them opportunity. My point is I have, whether it's high school or other things, I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm not interested in coaching at all. I'm saying the opportunities that I've had, I just have no desire to coach travel because I'm just not dealing with parents for free. There ain't no other way to put it. And I had pretty good parents for the most part for all the teams I've done with. But at the end of the day, until kids really have to, and the parents that I love dealing with are the ones where the kids actually have to take ownership. You know what I mean? Where the kids are held responsible. But, there's a lot of parents, man, they're just soft, dude. You're too hard on their kid. You're like, yeah, I'm sorry for coaching him. I'm sorry for telling him he did something wrong. Sorry for hurting his feelings. Some parents got mad at me because I decided not to coach this year, as if I owed it to them. And I'm like, man, y'all can ride with that. Like, you guys can ride with that. I don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah.
I gave your kids opportunity. And if it's just entitlement. So it's just, and, even when people hear this, they're going to be like, man, he's talking about me. Or they're like, I might get a nasty email and it's like, just save it. I ain't reading them. Don't send them because I ain't reading them. Don't even reply to my Instagram. I'm not looking at it because I'm at a place with my kids where I told them, man, you got to earn what you got in life. You pray, you ask God where he's taking you, and then you work hard for where he's taking you.
Yeah.
But you got to earn it, man. And I think this year, not coaching Caden, it's the first time in years I haven't. Bro, he went from on a brand new team from just, he went to being like, playing the same positions in the same places I had him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't need me to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He didn't need me to get there. And so I just am at a place where I think when I coached, I was scared to say things. Now I just don't care. Like, I love people, but the reality is I love your kids so much that I'm not willing to just baby them either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I see a lot of people, man. I'm an apostle. And when you're an apostle, you bring people up and you push them to things they can't get to on their own. That's what apostles do. And it burdens me more to see somebody operating at a level lower than what they're capable than anything else in my life. If you're like, what gets me off the couch? Pushing people to a place they can't get to without God and without people like me in their life. Because that's what apostles are for. There's men in my life and women who have spoken into my life and men who push me even now, that without them, there's no way I'd be where I'm at. They saw things in me like Patrick, the guy, Patrick Ratchett, Lifehouse. He planted me as a church planter. That guy saw things in me I could never see. He's an apostle. He raises up church planters. But for me, I just raise up young men to be what God's called them to be. And that's my plan. And my staff, like pushing people to where they couldn't get to on their own. If people could look back and say, man, that dude just pushed me where I could never gotten to on my own. That's my goal. That's my dream in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think like anything, I don't know why we push back on stuff like that. It's like, just read Paul's letters. Like there's a ton of literature around how even theologians today don't like Paul because he came off as kind of like, I don't know, he just seems like pushy and not nice. Well, he told you what you needed to hear. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that, man. Well, and I think too, to your point, Corey, I think people oftentimes, if you try to help somebody and they don't like what you're saying, submission to authority isn't exercised whenever they say something you like or agree with. Submission to authority is exercised whenever they say something you don't agree with, but you've already submitted to the authority.
Yeah.
Like, that's submission. It's like, I don't agree with them and I don't like it, but I know that I'm submitted to them. And I'm going to do what God's asked me to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's the hardest thing, is like, that's what I see. And like I said, I'm not mad. I have really, I've come a long way with a lot of it. Like, I'm in a good place. I didn't miss coaching at all this fall. I miss the kids. I think I'll probably get a little itch this spring and summer. That itch may be scratched, but I will say, I think I've learned as I've stepped back from it. And, it was hard because one of my assistant coaches, actually both my assistant coaches, one of them said something that really, I'm not great with the way I'm perceived. I'm so focused on like what God has for me and where I'm going. And I love people, but I'm not great at self-perception. Like, I'm not great at like how people actually see me. And even influence God's given me. Like, I'm not great at gauging that or knowing that I have any influence or thinking, because I'm literally every day. And, I have guys close to me. They're like, man, the reason I love you is because you've really never changed. And it's like, honestly, maybe that's a gift. Ignorance is a gift, because I don't know what influence I have or if I have any, or if people even know what I do or who I am. And people are like, you're an idiot. I'm like, well, maybe. I just don't know. And I'm not saying that I'm anything or nothing. I just don't, I don't think, my mind never works like that. I just, there's nothing invaluable to me in those things. So I just don't think of them. But I can tell you, I forgot where I was going with this. I can tell you that with, this fall and the time I took off, what I've learned the most about myself is baseball is a conduit to raising up young men into what God has for their life.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned, and so I had a coach, one of my assistants, he told me, he goes, man, you got to understand why this is such a knee jerk for people. Because when I stepped away from coaching my team, I had told them about a month before we stopped, and there was some miscommunication, and people thought maybe they weren't sure, and I didn't do a great job of communicating because I really wasn't sure, but I knew God was stirring me. And when I stepped away from it, when I did, one of my coaches said, you got to understand why people are so upset. He said, and this is what he told me, and I'll never forget it because it really helped me with perception, but also, I don't even know if he was saying it to be kind. I think he was just saying it to help me see. But he said, you're a premier coach, you're young, you're great at what you do, and people want to play for you, and you're just leaving. You're just done. He's like, you're stepping away in your prime.
Mm.
And I just thought, like, man, those are big accolades for a guy who's coached Little League and some travel. Like, I haven't done anything in my life. Like, what are you talking about? And I just don't think much of it. I just think, well, I just did what dads would do, right? But what I realized is, like, I think the impact that God allowed me to have in the lives of these kids was bigger than baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an apostle. And at the end of the day, this fall has helped me reflect on that and really chew on that of like, that's what I'm actually called to be, is an apostle. There are kids that I really miss that I know they're getting older and they're getting taller and they're throwing harder. And I just miss them because I love them. And I can't, like, I think about them a lot. And there's kids on my 10U team that are now 12 that I just love. And I love watching them play. And I look forward to just going out and seeing them play because I love those kids. And they're special to me. And there's a lot of moments you have on the mound with the kid, or moments when you bring all the infield in to talk to a pitcher. There's just a lot of moments you have in dugouts that I just really miss these kids. But I say that to you to say, I think what it's helped me do is realize that the reason I miss it so much is because I have an itch in me that has to be scratched when it comes to raising up men, young men, into what God has for them. Like I said, with our staff, with people that work for me, like I'm gonna push them to what God has. I'm gonna get the best out of them. But that's something for me that I really can say. And I know we've kind of backroaded this podcast. We're kind of going on the country roads, just kind of going around here talking. But I think that's why I love this platform, honestly, is that it's a place to just be raw. I mean, I'm like that on Sundays, but it's more scripted on Sundays. You got something you're trying to communicate here. Yeah. I just want people to hear my heart of like, it's really helped me discover what God has put in me, even in a deeper way. With the lack of self-perception that I may have, the one thing it's shown me is like my desire to be an apostle and to raise people up. And when I'm not doing that in the way that I was doing it with baseball, there is a void more so than the coaching piece. And that's why baseball is such a conduit. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely makes sense. That's good.
So I think that, for people that are listening, you might feel, because I know I'm in transition right now, and not transition from, you have to be careful how I use that word, especially as a pastor. Not in transition from what I do as a pastor. I mean, this church is my post. I'm not going to abandon my post. Like, this is where God's called me. Not in transition from being at the beach, nothing like that. I just know that God's about to add something to my life that's a responsibility, and I sense that. And so in all those things, I know that I could tell you that my biggest desire is to be put into something where I can really mentor and shape men, young men. It's such a pivotal time in my life. Coach has made such a huge impact in me. Because anybody will tell you, coaching the game is what it is, but developing, discipling, and raising people up is the most important thing you ever do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Great coaches are the best motivators,
Yeah. You were talking to me about this just yesterday. I mean, it's kind of asking those questions. Well, these are surface things. But what are the deeper things? Like, what's deeper?
Yeah.
Like, the surface is baseball. And absolutely, like, we're not saying surface things don't matter. Like, growing, developing as an athlete, sure, absolutely. But they're deeper things. And you can teach the deeper things while developing the surface things. And that's cool. That's purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're listening out there and you're saying, man, what are the deeper things? Well, I think that's where you got to figure out what is it that you love to do? Because the Bible says if you're serving God, he'll give you the desires of your heart. Do I love coaching? I love coaching any sport, right? It's not that my love for baseball is different than my love for football. I love all the sports. but I feel like baseball is a sport where it has really opened up doors for me to coach at a deeper level, and I know God's stirring something in that. What that means, I don't know. Virginia Beach Academy is opening up, and so we're excited about that. But whatever God's stirring in you, don't discard it like it's just something that you desire, but really ask God, like, what is it that you have for me in this? Because your spiritual gift, the thing God has given you to use for people so that they'll come to know Him, and the things that God has given you to help your lives around you and your life, those things are really important and they really matter. And like Corey, what is something in you that that it's not about your job or your kids or your wife? What is something in you that stirs you on a deep level that is connected to really your spiritual gifts?
Creativity. I mean, for me, it's as far as like how I'm individually wired, I think, creativity is a huge one. And because it is my connection to God, I think I'm a huge advocate of, we serve the creator, and He's created and designed us to be creators and to be creative. And that's a huge passion of mine, and I can get really deep into that. But there's also a lot of surface level things when it comes to that, like using your gifts and your talents and your skills, developing your skill, developing your craft. But there's a depth to that is highly connected to me and my life and how I connect to God.
So explain to people, because I think it's a great question. Explain to people that are saying, okay, you're creative. I'll give them a background. Corey does design. He does graphics. He writes his own music. He can play anything. He sings. Creative, right? And you can expand on that if you want. But if people that are listening and they're saying, okay, well, like, explain that. How does that? What are some creative outlets? What are some things that if you don't do, you feel? Because this is the thing. Spiritual gifts, when you do them, you feel closer to God. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you're using it's almost like whenever my wife and I go to dinner and I sit down and look her in the eyes, and I don't have 4 kids yelling at me or whatever, there's a connection because it's just me and her. It's undivided attention. And when you use your spiritual gifts, you're relying on God in those gifts anyway. But when you're connected to God like that, it's like when you serve your wife or you serve people around you, you feel connected. Like, if you go to a homeless shelter and you serve, you feel connected to the needs of those people, and you start asking questions. You want to do more. Right? Because it's a serving heart. It's a spiritual gift to be able to serve in some of those capacities. So for you, when you're doing creative things, what are the things that you have to do in order to function in a healthy way?
Yeah. So for me, the fastest way, the absolute fastest way that I could feel connected to God, and I even said this on Sunday in my message, but if I sit down with my Bible and I don't have really anything, it is a blank slate. So this is the creativity within me. If an artist would sit down with a blank piece of paper or blank canvas, and I have the word, which, I mean, goodness, metaphor wise, there's enough of a canvas for you right there. But if I just sit down, I have my guitar and I just start writing, and the stuff that comes out to me is worship. It's God hears. Not only is it therapy, I think there's a level for me where it's therapeutic, but it's just me saying, okay, God, here's your word. Here's how I'm feeling. I want to write something that conveys how I feel, both good and bad, but also declares of who you are. And that is my way of worshiping through things. And if I don't do that somewhat consistently, I'm not sitting here saying that is a daily thing in my life. I almost wish that it kind of could be. But if I don't do that consistently, my well runs dry. Like, spiritually, I begin to run a little bit on empty. And I know, like, I got to get back to these things. I have to write. I have to create. And I understand that that's not everybody. Like, that pathway is what I would call it. But my encouragement is you got to find yours. Like, I know you go on walks in the mornings, and you've shared with me a ton. You've shared with people that
don't give away my secrets.
I'm sorry.
Guy.
But
they're gonna think I'm an old guy.
But no, you've talked continually.
I do go on walks
about
with my pit bull. Okay.
I think you're a guy that is, and I can be too, but you are a guy who is more so in awe of God's creation. You've told me multiple times when you just stood out and viewed the stars or the way the sunset was, or
every day
you are overwhelmed by God's presence
every day
when you go on these walks.
Yep.
That's a pathway for you to connect to God. And I think people need to do those things consistently. Otherwise, you're running in your own strength. You're running in your own capacity. And I don't want to do that. Like, I want to run in the strength that God is giving me. And so, yeah, for me, like this connects to so many things. You probably realize that worship has been the thing that's honestly been keeping me going for a very long time when I was an emotional stuffer. But now it's such a tool for me to really, I don't know, vent a lot of things and get a lot of things out. And I have so many journal entries that to this day I'll still go back and read, of dark moments in my life, and they become songs that are kind of birthed. And that's what God does. And so for me, it's just a reminder of how God births beautiful things from either nothing or mess and disaster and destruction. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great. I think you said a word in there that I think people need to understand. When you use your spiritual gifts, there is a therapeutic piece to them. For instance, my prayer time, I go on walks every morning, usually 2 miles or right under it. And I take my dog. If it's too cold, I hit my treadmill in my garage where I work out area. But I usually take my dog and we just walk. Because it's a little less weird walking down my driveway up and back as many times I have to with a dog than just walking by myself. But no, my dog, he goes out there and we just hang out. But I would say this, when I coached, I was out there every night at the fields. We have tournaments, but coaching is therapeutic for me. My wife would say it. She's like, man, you give so much time, but I almost feel like it's good for you. And what it did was, hitting those ground balls and teaching kids mechanics, like that's what it is for you to write. It's your way to worship. It's your way. But for me, it's developing a kid, whether it's teaching a mechanic of baseball or how to be a better young man and growing the character and whatever it is that he's struggling in, or how to do better in school, or asking him, hold him accountable for something stupid they did. It's therapeutic for me because it's my spiritual gift of apostleship. It's growing them into something. And I think for you, when you're saying, well, I write and it connects me to God, I would even say, take one step further and say, when I walk, like my quiet time, like you're exactly right. When I go to the mountains, I can see God. When I'm at the beach, I can see God. I can see God in everything. Where I live, there's a lot of dark skies and bright stars, and I go out every night and every morning and I'm just in awe of what is out here. It's seeing God. But I will say this: when you're in your spiritual gifts and you're writing, or I'm, not that coaching isn't one for you, but I'm saying coaching in the apostolic way for me. I love going out and just hitting ground balls. I love going out and hitting pop flies. I love going out and teaching mechanics of baseball because it's a development of a person. And that to me is me using my spiritual gift of being an apostle and raising up, people in whatever it is they're good at. And I know that it's specifically, that's a spiritual gift it doesn't have to be centered to pastors and missionaries and teachers. It's just raising people up and getting them to go to a place they couldn't go on their own. So I think for those of you're listening and you're thinking, man, why does such and such give me such great energy? And it's because maybe it's a gift in your life that is actually used to help others. And that is something that connects us to God in such a crazy way. We think, well, my spiritual gift, I stand at the door and greet people on a Sunday because I'm hospitable. Well, that's maybe a gift in your life that you have that, but maybe your spiritual gift, because you're leading your small group, is so life-giving because you just love gathering people. Like hospitality is such a passion for you, making people feel connected. Or maybe for you, there's this gift of, you love it when somebody is going through something, you hurt for them, but you love encouraging them and making them feel different when they get off the phone or whenever you call them, or you love going out to lunch, or you just love making sure that, like, lifting people's spirits. That's a gift of encouragement. Why does it, and it brings you joy. It doesn't make you just feel exhausted. I think there is the other side of it where you have to be cautious. It could make you feel exhausted. And so you have to make sure that you're taking those walks and that you're doing those things. But the spiritual gifts really help us connect with God because we're using it for him. But then when you're doing it for people, it does bring you energy. It does bring you some kind of fresh breath. So it's important. It's really important. So Corey, we're going completely off the rail today, which is good. You know, that's what I hope a lot of these become. I don't want them to be. We try not to script these too tight because we want to make sure that it's a platform where we can speak freely, let the Holy Spirit kind of, as we're talking, like guide conversations in ways where we're not so scripted that we can't just. I believe, now let me say this for all us legalists out there. I believe the Holy Spirit can speak before a Sunday and he can speak during a Sunday. I don't feel like, but I know that when these podcasts hit, Corey and I have talked a lot about, I just want them to be free flowing. And, you know, like moments like today, I think they're important because some of you, maybe you've been praying for these kind of moments. Maybe you've been praying and the things we're saying, you've been praying for these answers. And so here they are. You know, I hope they're encouraging to you. But before we go, it wouldn't be the same without Corey's fun fact.
Let me derail it even further. So back in 1997, there was a guy named Cliff High, and he developed a software called WebBot. And this software would collect data. It was specifically designed to kind of predict future stock market movements. So whether up, down, crash, you name it. And it's predicted some pretty cool things over the years. But in 2009, the creator kind of used it for something different, and it spit out a prediction that I honestly think is pretty crazy for one reason in particular. The other one is just pretty wild. Anyway, it said, so this is the wild part. It said that there was going to be a UFO war in the skies, that both UFOs would be fighting UFOs and UFOs would be fighting jets and pilots and all sorts of stuff, that basically there was going to be a war with UFOs. So that's wild and crazy. But it said that there would be a trigger event. And this trigger event would happen, and then 39 days later, the war would take place in the skies. And so again, mind you, in 2009, this is what it spit out. So the trigger event was that Donald Trump would be interviewed by Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah. Great.
So, like, just to put a little bit into perspective.
This is in 1997?
So he created this in 1997. In 2009, it predicted
He said that
this.
the trigger event would be.
So in 2009, the trigger event would be that Donald Trump would be interviewed by Joe Rogan. Now, mind you, I had to look this up. Mind you, Joe Rogan's podcast started in 2009, but not. It was like December of 2009 that Joe started this podcast. And when he started the podcast, he's got the largest podcast in the world currently. When it started, it was literally, he talks about it all the time. He's like, it was just me and like a friend in the basement of my house. Nobody was watching. Like, no one really cared. He was just the Fear Factor guy at that point. So that's the crazy part to me, the sheer fact that this WebBot predicted that Joe Rogan would interview Donald Trump, which is kind of crazy. But then it said 39 days later, there'd be a UFO war in the sky. Well, I just wanted to let everybody know that date was yesterday.
Oh, good. So we're free.
Yeah. so as far as I know,
guys. I was on the edge of my seat.
And as far as I know, I didn't see any UFOs in the sky yesterday. I didn't hear any news about a war breaking out with UFOs. So I think we're in the clear, guys. I think we made it.
Woo, praise God.
But this software has correctly predicted some crazy things like earthquakes and all sorts of things, like pretty accurately. So this was kind of before AI was a thing. It's just another reason for me to just scare everybody about AI. It's coming for you. It's going to take our lives away. Yeah, be encouraged.
Well, that's great, man. That is great. Well, here's my final thought.
Here's my final thought.
So the other day I saw a guy playing the lottery, and he was frustrated at the lotto machine. And so I thought, how much on average does the lotto player spend in America? Well, on average, it's around $1,000 a year that people spend playing the lottery.
Wow.
If you invest $1,000 a year over 30 years and 8% return, you can have $43,200 in 30 years. Now, I know that may not be as much money in 30 years. I know you may not be excited about that. But if you think about ever winning a $43,000 lottery ticket, it's probably not ever happening. You have about a 1 in 302,575,350 chance of winning a Mega Millions jackpot, okay? It's a far greater chance for those of you who are playing the lottery to be attacked by a grizzly bear while on vacation in a U.S. national park. Even that only happens in 1 in 2.7 million visits. So don't waste your money. Invest your money. That's your final thought. Let me pray over you. Lord, I thank you so much for all that you are. I thank you for each and every listener. I pray that today they would know that the things that are in their life are intentional, that you crafted them and made them for a time like this, and you built them. God, that the gifts that they have, the spiritual gifts that they have, are for a reason and on purpose. We love you, we praise you, we thank you, and everybody said, amen. Hey, see y'all this week. Unto Us Christmas series coming at you live Christmas Eve, the 23rd and 24th at 6 p.m., 9:30 this Sunday. We'll see you there. How do you get them lasers to go, homeboy? How'd you do that?
Rock out.
Oh, nice.
Rock out.
Let's go. Love y'all. Have a good one.
But it is 579 million right now.